Hey, Facebook family. We are glad to be back on the eve of all things cool going on at South by Southwest. You're here with your Austin LGBT Chamber of Commerce. I'm Tina Canham, your president and CEO. We are here to help support the diverse economy, both the workplace and the workforce. To learn more about us, you can always visit austinlgbtchamber.com. We're going to talk later today with our good friend Steve Markle, who's the new GM of the Chamber, but also has a really unique connection to South by. So stay tuned for that. Of course, we couldn't do what we do without all of the sponsors in our area. So take a moment to examine who supports causes that are important to you, both at this chamber and other organizations that you're a part of. So thank you to our sponsors, Dell Technologies, our premier sponsor for the year, and all of the other sponsors you see on this screen, as well as this one. Be intentional about where you place your time, treasure, and talents with those who are intentional about how they support your community. So with that, we're going to dive right into it. This is a live show, so if then you know something really went wrong. But also, you can drop us in some comments on screen and maybe join the show. But please help me welcome today Steve Markle.
Hi.
Hey, Steve. Good to see you as always. Tell the fans and out there watching why they should be paying attention to your comments. What do you know about South by?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've spent a lot of time at South by. I've lived in Austin for a very long time, but before I joined the chamber, I worked at South by for almost 6 years. So I have a unique perspective, and I think I can talk a little bit more in depth than some of the other people about South by and what to expect and what to look out for, and really just how to keep an open mind and experience the whole shebang.
Yeah, and we're 2 years from not having one, right? So there's a lot of people who may have forgotten the do's and don'ts of South by, forgotten what's not to miss, what's happening, or there's a ton of new people in town. I was sitting at a restaurant the other day, and these young people were next to me saying, you know what? There's this spring that you can swim in. So, right, people are new to Austin and they're getting it figured out. So what can they know? What do they need to know about South by Southwest for this year?
Well, I think the first rule of South by, I say it's the three S's rule, right?
Okay.
Don't forget your socks. You need an extra pair of socks. You need sunscreen, and you need sunglasses. These are the three most important things to start off when you're packing your bag.
Okay.
You don't know what you're going to run into, and you're going to do a lot of walking, a lot of moving around.
That's
and
key.
You want to look cool, so you got to keep the vibe going.
Yeah, shoes are really important. I learned that. I started going to South by late 2000s, and I learned the hard way that cute shoes are not necessarily the right shoes.
Oh no.
Comfortable shoes.
This is not the place to break in that fashionable pair of, new Pradas or whatever. No, you want comfort, but still a little bit of cool.
Yeah.
Think more Converse, more Vans, not the high-end luxury brand.
No to Manolo, right? Don't do Manolos on this one.
Right.
Well, good. What's happening this year? Who are some big things that are coming to South by Southwest this year? And then we're going to dive into a little bit more specific on what's really happening in the LGBT space around South by. But what are some can't miss moments?
So I was staying up pretty late last night going over the schedule because they keep adding new things. I think there's just a lot of stuff that's coming in right at the last minute, and probably a lot of things that maybe needed some updates on the schedule. Things that are on my list this year, of course, it really does hit home as far as being in the LGBTQ spectrum. But the featured session with Jonathan Van Ness, JVN, and Alok, I'm really, really excited about that. And I think a lot of people will be too. Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. What is Queer Eye now on Netflix? That shows my age, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. But, they always have really important conversations, and they also have a new show on Netflix that kind of dives in a little bit deeper about gender expression and, the gender binary. So that'll be an interesting talk to sit in on. I really kind of gravitate towards the experiential side of things. That's where my background is at South by. So I'm really curious to see what these brands do. I know there's a big tech activation on the experience of sound that's at the Sunset Room across the street from the convention center, which I want to pop my head into and see what it's all about. There's an activation at Cheer Up Charlie's from Patreon,
Okay.
which sounds really cool. It's kind of exploring what it's like to create a product from conception all the way through. And so they're bringing in their creators, whether it be artists, musicians, a bunch of other things. So I'm excited about those two things. But you got to dive into the schedule and really kind of create your own thing. South by is for everybody. There's something for everyone.
Yeah, it's super key. I mean, right, everybody's going to line up for Lizzo, but right, don't forget everything else that's going on, right? Take a look at that schedule for sure and make it your own. And Emily agrees with us too. She dropped this little comment that says, comfortable shoes are a must. So again, if you're watching us live, drop us a comment and hopefully you can jump into the show as well. What are we hearing on LGBT activities and activations and fun stuff going on during South by?
Well, I would be remiss to not mention, of course, the chamber events that are happening. We've got the big gay kickoff party tomorrow. Oh my gosh, it's tomorrow, Tina.
It is tomorrow.
It's going to be the big party for Friday night for the first Friday of South by. It's kind of welcoming everybody back to town. We've got friends and family from all over the world. Gays are here from lots of different countries, and we need to show them where the party's at. So tomorrow at Rain from 6 to 9, the chamber's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Tina, I think you're going to be there.
I'm going to be there. Nicole says hello. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. It's going to be a fun time. So everybody should show up for that. Yeah. As
a chamber, our job is to drive business to our chamber members, and it is the first time that this will be a fully advertised through South by Southwest gay kickoff party. We've been doing it with the chamber here for years. But this is the best way to drive attention and focus to our gay bars that really, they've, along with all of our other bars and restaurants in our community, felt the impact of COVID really hard. So I'm really excited to highlight this part of our town, this part of our community. It's always been a big part of our community. So I'm hoping that we fill up the doors at Rain and all of the pubs along that same stretch. What else is happening?
Well, then, of course, the next day, the Chamber's got a full day planned with LGBT business panels. We're kind of touching a lot of bases throughout the day, whether it be advocacy within, your corporate culture and what companies can do to truly be aligned with, diversity and making sure that they're supporting the LGBTQIA initiatives around the country, around the world. We've got a panel dedicated to developing your brand and kind of the ins and outs of what you need to consider with that. So many different pieces of topic for that.
I'm seeing on that very first one.
I think you can see it on the screen.
Yeah, that advocating for equality, that's a killer panel that's going to be happening. We've got our friends from Facebook or Meta. From who else is going to be on that panel?
We've got someone from Dell. We've got Ericsson represented. We've got some of our chamber members from the board, Gary Schumann, Deidre Walsh, who's our board chair for this year. It's going to be a very dynamic and interesting panel to attend for sure.
It's really impactful. I know everybody's been paying attention to the news, and our chamber, we stood on the steps of City Hall yesterday supporting the really hateful legislation that we're seeing coming out during this highly politicized time. And the unfortunate thing is now they're using our children as political props, and we need to make sure that we are learning the best ways to advocate both from our personal voice and from our professional voice. So if you represent a corporation or work for one, or you're inside of an ERG, inside of a giant corporation, make sure that they're speaking for you and make sure that they are advocating for you in the LGBT space, because the voice of business in politics is majorly important. And we're also going to be talking about supplier diversity on those panels, and then just some basic business 101s, right? Things that you need to know about running or starting your business, or maybe kind of professionalizing your idea that you've been working on, and oh my gosh, it turned into a business. And then just the pieces, parts around branding. So full day of panels. You do have to have a badge to get into these. Yeah, these are South by events.
Yep, they're both official events. So what that means is, of course, that South by attendees get priority entry, but that doesn't mean you can't attend.
Okay.
If there isn't a line and if we've got space, you're more than welcome to show up, and we'll get you in as quick as we can.
That's great. And then within
Yeah.
your South by Southwest app, you can always, how can you find all of the cool things that are going on that are in the LGBT space?
Well, South by's made it really easy this year. They've tagged a lot of their events and programming with, the hashtag LGBTQ.
Okay.
So when you go up into the schedule and just use the search bar, you can search by that tag, and it'll bring up everything in the schedule that has a tag associated with that. Of course, you can use other tags, but if you're focused on LGBTQ centric programming, that's the easiest way to do it.
And there's a
We
great
also
deal.
have a blog.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Because there's a great deal of,
Well,
of film, there's a great deal of music, and of
Mhm.
course, interactive sessions. Yes?
Yeah, it runs the gamut. I was really amazed this year. Being on the staff at South by for several years, they've always had diversity programming and lots of programming that's centered on our community. But this is the first year where I'm really kind of seeing a huge kind of dive into what that means across the spectrum: film, music, art. Very, very special keynotes. We've got the Secretary Pete Buttigieg. How do you? I always mess up his last name. Buttigieg. Yeah, yeah. Well, Pete's going to be here. I'm looking forward to hearing from him. There's also, I'm sure Beto is going to talk about what's going on in Texas right now with all this crazy potential legislation. So I think you're going to find that as a commonality, a theme running through South by this year. There's going to be a lot of artists, companies, businesses doing things around protections for, of course, our trans kids and our families inside Texas.
Certainly. So there's probably this year, and it may be anecdotal, but I've been going to South by for over a decade, maybe even longer. And there's a ton of information out there. All those things that you mentioned about the film, the interactive, the really cool sessions that are all very LGBT specific can be found at the AustinLGBTChamber.com's website. Just go in there and look for our blog section. Steve, what did there's a little musical thing going on in there. What did you put together?
Well, so music is one of my major passions. I used to host a radio show at South by called On the Gaydar. So I always focused on the artists that were coming to town that swung our way. So I made a playlist this year based off of some of the conversations I got to have with South by at our community meetup.
Nice.
That really kind of showcases the LGBTQ artists performing during the music section of South by, which kind of really starts on Monday next week and runs all the way through Saturday. So
that's great. So if you're not cool like me and you want to be cool like Steve, then hit our website.
We're cool in different ways, Tina. We're cool in different ways.
He's got a great playlist so that you can jam around while you're walking around South by Southwest. Again, you can visit the Chamber's website, go to our blog page, and you'll see a listing of all the events that we're hosting, as well as some other really cool highlighted LGBT events that are happening during South by Southwest. We appreciate that. Steve, one more time for those in the cheap seats that came late. What are the 3 S's that are your go-tos for South by?
The 3 S's that should appear in your bag when you're packing for South by: an extra pair of socks, sunscreen, and sunglasses. You want to look cool, you want to be comfortable, and you want to be protected. So,
on that note, thank you so much for your time and your treasure and your talents on all things South by Southwest. Again, we can't do what we do with support from our sponsors, so be sure to be intentional about where you put your time and who you do your business with. Thank you to Dell Technologies for being our premier sponsor of the year. And to all of the sponsors you see on your screen, thank you for supporting your Austin LGBT Chamber. Thank you all very much. Be cool for South by.
Thank you. Can't wait to see you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.